And now we're going to deal with the motions dealing with employment and social protection, motions number 18 to 26. And again, can I remind the movers of motions to state their name and branch when they're moving. And the first is motion number 18 in the name of Donnybrook Branch in Dublin Bay South. Do we have a mover? Mover. Do we have a mover for motion number 19 in the name of Galway City Central Branch in Galway West? Sorry, Mary, you're going to move motion number 18. Sorry, Mary. You're okay, Mary. Take your time. And while you're approaching the podium, maybe somebody from Galway City Central in Galway West would think of moving motion number 19.
Mary Flynn from Dublin Bay South. All my time, really, certainly the last 30 years, as a member of the Labour movement, both in trade unions and in the Labour Party, and I've heard all the time about the community employment schemes and how valuable they have been, not just for the people who received their training on these schemes and might have an opportunity then to go on to further employment, but also for communities that have received what are basically, I suppose, non-commercial services that they really, really need. And so anything that can allow these schemes to continue in a valuable way and a relevant way, I think should be supported. So please support this motion.
Thank you, Mary. Mover for motion number 19, Galway City Central Branch, Galway West. Mover for motion number 20 in the name of Dublin South West Constituency Council. Mover of motion number 21 in the name of Tala. Sorry? Motion number 20, Dublin South West Constituency Council. Aidan.
Thanks very much, comrades. Aidan Carberry, the Rathfarnham branch of the Dublin South West constituency. I'm asking colleagues today to support this motion on behalf of the constituency. I will admit that I didn't write it myself, but I suppose for me what's important about this motion is that it promotes the narrative of equality of outcome as opposed to the equality of opportunity, which we hear about so frequently in the media. When talking about actually ending disadvantage and poverty in areas all across the country. Anybody can talk about equality of opportunity. Fine Gael are talking about equality of opportunity. Leo Varadkar is talking about equality of opportunity. However, I suppose alongside that, with no sense of irony, saying that anybody who wants to get a dig out with buying a house should go to the bank of mum and dad. I don't think he really gets how equality works, but I suppose that's of no surprise to anybody in this room. But it's for this reason that I'm asking people to support this motion. Any party that is going to be talking about actually ending disadvantage and poverty is one that I want to be a part of, and therefore I think that's where the Labour Party should be. We should be to the forefront of that narrative. We should be the people that actually talk about what we want our country to look like and how it should be under well, one day hopefully a Labour government. And so I really hope that you can support the motion. Thank you very much.
We have a mover of motion 21 in the name of Tallaght Central Branch, Dublin South West. Oh, sorry, my apologies. I didn't invite the seconder of motion number 20.
Well, if I'm here, I'll Dennis Mackin, Tallaght Central, Dublin South West. I'll second the motion. Okay. And
Yes.
I'll
Thanks, Dennis.
Right.
And you'll move motion 21 as well.
Yeah. Again, Dennis Mackin, Tallaght Central, Dublin South West. This motion it speaks for itself, so I'm not going to give a big spiel about it because it's well in kilter with the thinking of the Labour Party. So I'm asking you to support this motion.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
On motion number 22, in the name of Ballymun Branch, Dublin North West, Jerry. Can I read it out? Well, while acknowledging the merits of a universal system of child benefit payments, and given the serious inequality and unfairness that exists with regard to other state supports and services, conference supports the policy of means testing children's allowances at an appropriate level and with a sliding scale in order to redistribute the substantial savings to areas of greater social need. Jerry.
Thanks very much, comrades. I spoke to the speaker there, but it actually wasn't Jack. I was speaking to the, if you know, the big box. Can I quote two people on this place? Sorry, Jerry Kerr, Dublin North West. Jack earlier said politics is ultimately about choice. Sean said basically politics is about pragmatism and being sensible. So here we have stand back a bit. Here we have a motion which I think is probably the only motion tonight that people will vote against. So I'm asking you to please consider it. I do say to people, I understand there's some people I highly respect who disagree with this motion. So I'm asking you yourselves to think and see what you think of it. What I'm basically saying to you, my proposition is that the perfect is sometimes the enemy of the good. If we look at our child benefit system, it's €140 per month per child, 1.6 million children, 2.2 billion. If we were to have a sliding scale at which I didn't set, I left it open, and if we were to have a cut-off point, we would, it's reckoned, if we're talking about combined income of 100,000, and we're talking about a sliding scale of losing €10 per 1,000, something like €114,000 eventually would be the cliff at which you wouldn't get any child benefit. Now, I am in favour totally of universal benefits. I get it, I get the principle. But I'm just saying, wave after wave of people tonight set out from autism to mental health to disability to childcare, how we desperately need money. So in the meantime, I'm asking you delegates, please, to be pragmatic on something like this and to consider it. I do think if you take Mick and his testimony there, for 110 million we could have everybody with a disability, not with a means tested, €164 per week, but not having to worry about that. We could put a dent into the childcare services. We could talk about autism, we could talk about early mental health intervention. There's so much. Can we afford any longer? Emotional point, to give Michael O'Leary €7,000 a year, €500 a month for his children. Would Connolly stand by this? Are we really making the perfect system the enemy of the good? Thank you.
So is there a seconder now for motion number 22? Seconded by Mick Keegan. Now, motion number 23 in the name of the James Connolly Branch, Waterford. Are we a mover? I saw some people from Waterford here earlier. Oh, sorry, yes, John. Jack. Sorry, Jack. Mick, did you intend to speak to second the motion?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies, Jack. I didn't realise. I thought you were formally seconding it. I'll let you second it in a moment. Jack.
Okay.
Motion number 23.
Recognising that the South East has a higher rate of unemployment than the national average, conference calls on the Labour Party, Parliamentary Party, to hold government to promises that they have made by various ministers to employ state agencies such as the IDA and the Enterprise Ireland to address the situation. Now, as delegates here would know over the years, even in the worst of the recession, when national unemployment was 15%, it was 19% in the South East. And as things improved and got better and better in the major urban centres, we are still behind the rest of the country. On balance, what happens with that then is we get low-paid jobs, and that reduces the spend in the local economy. Despite promises from various Fine Gael ministers, they come around when there's a factory closure and they say, oh yeah, we'll set up a task force, we'll get the IDA in, we'll get the Enterprise Ireland, we'll do the devil and all. But the reality is, for the last couple of years, we haven't seen an IDA man in the South East. So what is the future for us? We need action, not empty promises. And we need state support as well, because any local economy will need the private investment, but also you need state investment. So we need support in investment for the proposed University of the South East. We need an investment for infrastructure. We need investment in our health and hospital services. We need a new dynamic approach to tackling unemployment, and we need the government to provide the means to reduce this, and we want them held to account by our members in Dáil Éireann. Gurmail Margaret.
Thank you, Jay. Now, is there a seconder for motion number 23? Formally seconded by John Pratt. Mick, you want to speak now to second motion 22? My apologies to you, Mick. I thought you were formally seconding it.
I'm glad I brought the wheelchair. Second toy going down here. I know Jerry's motion seems controversial, you know, and I know people are going to come up and say it's probably the only income a woman would get and whatnot, and that's probably true. But you've got to remember everything else that the government hands out in the way of social welfare, disability payments, medical cards are stringently means tested. If you go over €2, you lose your medical card. That's how stringent the means tests are. Now, some of the people will come along and say it'll be too expensive. Well, if it's too expensive to do the mean testing for the children's allowance, surely to God it must be too expensive to do the mean test for the rest. And that's where I lie with the case. I think it should be debated properly, and I do agree in the scale. And some of that money could actually be redistributed into people such as disability, or given those at disadvantage a much higher children's allowance. But I think we really need to look at it and talk about it. I just want to second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. Now we're on motion number 24 in the name of Thurles Branch and Tipperary. Have we a mover for motion 24? Mover for motion 24. So now we're down to motion number 25 in the name of the Central Council.
Thanks very much, Chairman. Comrades, this motion that's before you is very passionate to me, and it's something that I've been striving about and driving about for a while now. I'm a member of the Charlie Smith branch, and I'm a candidate for Carlow Kilkenny in the next general election, whenever that will happen. I've been working alongside Jack O'Connor for 21 years now within SIPTO, and delighted to be working with him within the Labour Party. And I think it's great that this motion, I believe, is what James Connolly and the party is all about. It's very core. When we're out there and you look in the face of working men and working women, and you see the despair, and you see the stress in their face, and they're working for $9.55 an hour. And while many of us might think, and many of the people that might tune in might say, well, that's not always the case. The ESRI statistics are there to show otherwise. And when I walk across Carlow Kilkenny, and I'm sure it's right around the country, the despair, the stress that they feel, they've just brought kids back to school, they've tried their best, and now they're facing Christmas, Santa Claus, and so on, and the fear of how will we get money together. And what do? We look at a government that has just given 20 cents of an increase on top of $9.55, despite the fact that the technical group, an independent technical group, has decided to have any kind of social acceptable standard for an individual with no dependence, to drive a very small, modest car would need $11.90 an hour just to survive. Falls well into the two-tier system. And that's the system we're in. And we as a party, we have to work hard to make sure that there's social justice. And the people that we represent, the working class, can look to us for leadership and be guaranteed that through the work that has been done here at the top table by all of us and by the former leader James Connolly, that we will deliver, and we have to deliver, and prove that there's no hiding place out there. There is no hiding place for any employer that can afford to pay $11.90 an hour for their workers. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Now, is there a seconder for that motion in the name of the Central Council? Well, you're going to respond to it. Jean will second it. I'll second it, and motion number 26 now, again in the name of the Central Council. Brendan Ryan to move. Deputy Brendan Ryan. Thanks.
Delegates, I commend motion 26 to conference, and I ask for your full support for it. As spokesperson for Defence, I have consistently raised the plight of our Defence forces in the Dáil, as has our party leader Brendan Howlin. The Defence forces are organising in an unprecedented way to fight for the minimum respect and dignity in the workplace. On the 19th of September this year, over 1,000 people, led by the wives and partners of the Defence Forces organisation and the Association of Retired Commissioned Officers, marched to Leinster House in what was known as the Parade for Respect and Loyalty. I was proud to join them outside the gates of Dáil Éireann, and was joined by our party leader and other members, our other Oireachtas members. Now, while some saw this powerful demonstration as a protest, in fact it was a noble parade to celebrate the brave work of the men and women of our Defence forces. Brave work that must be acknowledged and respected with appropriate wages, fair terms and good conditions. The sheer number of demonstrators that day, the number of those members who are actually on social welfare payments, and the number of Defence members leaving the force is an indication that there is a dire need for change.
a change in how the members are treated and especially in how they are paid. If we do not acknowledge this, then we will continue to be doing a disservice to our Defence Force personnel and their families. How can we expect these men and women who sacrifice so much to continue to give of their time and lives to this country if they feel that they are not properly respected? It is no wonder that our recruitment numbers are low, our turnover rate is so high, and that our body of personnel keeps losing members. Every one of the 5 points called for in this motion needs to be delivered. Our Defence Forces are respected by the Irish people. They make us proud. They protect the lives of vulnerable people in conflict zones all over the world. They in turn are respected all over the world. They are respected by everyone, it seems, apart from our own government. Fine Gael may historically be seen as the party of law and order with an affinity for the Defence Forces, but they have let the Defence Forces down. We are the real party for workers, and that is what our Defence Forces personnel are. They are workers. Let us show our Defence Forces personnel how much we value them, but not with worthless platitudes, but with meaningful and necessary wage increases, with appropriate allowances to reflect the work they do and the sacrifices they make and the sacrifices their families make for them. Let's seek a living wage for all our Defence Forces. Let's demand the implementation of the Working Time Directive. Let's increase the security duty allowance. Let's stop recruits having deductions for their meals for the duration of their training. And let's recognise them as an organised workforce and recognise their representative organisations for the purposes of collective bargaining. This is what the Labour Party is about. This is what this motion is about, and I commend the motion to conference. Thank you, Delegates.
Thank you, Brendan. Is there a seconder for motion number 26 in the name of the Central Council? It's formally seconded. So we now have motions number 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25 and 26 before the floor for debate. And if during the course of the debate the Galway City Central branch of Galway West wants to move motion number 19, or the Thurles branch in Tipperary wants to move motion number 24, I'll take them. So the motions are before the floor for debate. Speakers? 1, 2. No, go ahead.
Chahirlig, agus a Cameron 40, Sean O'Hergine, Crave, Charlie Smith, Kilcunnig. I want to oppose motion number 22. I think, unsurprisingly, I have huge regard for both Mick and Jerry, who are the movers of the motion this evening. But I would have to say I joined the party of Connolly. I was proud to stand in the middle of Cardiff following a rugby match beside the statue of an Iron Bevan. I joined the party of universality. I don't ever want to be a member of a party who doesn't support the concept of universality in all of its practice in every policy area. I would also have to say, as a primary school principal, that I have met the women that Mick referred to. The people who appear at times to be very well off on the outside. And we all know that in situations in real life, there are women for whom child benefit is their sole source of income. And that's not right, and it needs to be addressed. If we take this, and I fear it's becoming an increasing agenda on the left, where elements of the left want us to move towards means testing and away from universality. If we take that to its logical extension, free GP care for under sixes would not have been introduced for every child, regardless of the means of their parents. University fees would not have been abolished for every person, and I speak as one of those people who came from a family who was €100 over the means test limit for third level fees in the 1980s. And on that topic, I hope we'll be the party that will abolish the registration fee as well and reintroduce free third level education for everybody. So With respect to the movers of the motion, I understand the logic of what they're putting forward. I know the expense involved in this scheme, but I really believe that access to health, access to education and access to fundamental welfare rights needs to be universal and available to every person. That has always been the principle of Labour. I urge you to vote against the motion and to ensure we continue to uphold those principles.
Thank you, Sean. Now, I have to remind delegates that we're getting into trouble with time. So I'm going to have to become much stricter in relation to time. But in any event, are there any further speakers offering? Eileen. And while Eileen is approaching the podium, can I ask speakers wishing to contribute to come up and sit in the front row here so that we can use the time? Eileen.
Eileen O'Mahony Bow, Greystones branch and member of the Labour Women Executive. I would like to commend the previous speaker, whom I totally agree with what he was saying. And added to that, because I too have met, I worked as a social worker in my career, have met women for whom the children's allowance is the only income that they have, be they rich or be they poor. The other thing to take into consideration is that women are not fully equal in this country as yet. We still don't have equal pay. We are a disadvantaged group, but not as disadvantaged as perhaps 50 years ago. But for those mothers who get this direct payment, it is the only direct payment they get in relation to their children. Years ago, when I was filling out my tax and my children were young, I could claim a tax relief. That doesn't happen anymore. No matter how many children you have, you don't get any special consideration for them. Children's allowance is the only thing you get. And the truth is that the vast majority of people in this country are people who struggle to survive, be it that they be renting or be it that they're paying a mortgage. It's only a small majority who have large incomes. This payment is paid through taxation, and being honest, those who have the most wealth will pay the most tax, or at least that's the way it should be. So I would strongly suggest that people do not support this motion. Sorry, Jerry.
Thanks, Eileen. Now, if there are no other speakers on these motions, I want to invite Senator Jed Nash, who is spokesperson on these issues, to respond to the debate. Senator Jed Nash.
Thank you very much, Jack. Comrades, thank you for tabling and debating these motions. Almost 1 in 5 of all motions on the conference agenda this weekend demands more rights for working people, it demands decent work, and they demand a better social protection system. I am exceptionally proud to be a member of a party that day in, day out puts the collective ahead of the individual, the common good before narrow sectional interests. A party like the man we were proud to see re-elected as President of Ireland last week, that understands that a decent society is one that's founded on the principle that there should be an income floor beneath which nobody should be allowed to fall. It was those values, Chairman, that won last Friday's election. Our social protection system has been built up and protected in very rough times by this party. It's a system built on basic human decency, not on dependency. If Peter Casey and his cronies don't like it, then he can head on back to the US where he pays his taxes. We'll keep our president. Thank you very much. This great party was founded to use every means at our disposal to address poverty and inequality wherever we see it. This is who we are, this is who we should be, and we must support Motion 20 and make that goal our central mission. Everything that this government does is proof for its impact on competitiveness. It's telling that very little is poverty-proofed. Comrades, the deepest and most searing divisions in our society are economic. Low pay, lack of opportunity, intergenerational poverty, poor housing and poor educational attainment sustains and deepens these inequalities. And comrades, that's why we will establish an economic equality agency which Brendan Howlin announced at our thinking in Drogheda, with a remit across government to wage war on poverty and to win that fight. I support the motions on community employment. Our alternative budget targeted very significant additional resources at these schemes that do a uniquely important job in our communities. And unlike the Dragons, all of whom were slayed by Michael D last week, we understand and we believe in the power of the state to do great things. After all, ideas are more powerful than dragons. And our universal child benefit system is one of those great ideas, one of those timeless ideas. And we in Labour uniquely believe in the principle of universality. It's why we support a child benefit system available to all. I accept, Jerry, the genuine motivation behind motion 22 from the Ballymun branch, but I'm calling on conference to not support it. It's very rare I disagree with somebody with proud Drogheda roots, as Jerry has. I agree with the sentiments as well expressed in motions 24 and 25. We set up the Low Pay Commission in 2015 with an inbuilt default position to see the national minimum wage increase year on year. Next year, 130,000 people will see the fourth successive hike in the lowest rate of pay in Ireland, and against Fine Gael's natural instincts. You might say that we haven't gone away, you know. Nobody pretends that the national minimum wage is anywhere close to what a citizen needs to make ends meet, and I agree with my colleague Dennis Hines. That's why Labour has led the way in the living wage. It's why we've argued for the Low Pay Commission's remit to be changed to get to €11.90 an hour. It's not OK with me that the state pays out hundreds of millions of euros each year to subsidise low-paid work, giving a free pass to massive corporations who won't pay their staff decent wages. And it's not OK with me either. It's not OK with you. It's not OK with this party that members of our defence forces, as my colleague Deputy Ryan has referenced, that they and their families are living in poverty because of their appalling pay and their dreadful terms and conditions. So when the Labour Party talks about a living wage, we start with our public servants, and our defence forces personnel absolutely should be a priority because the state must lead by example. I support motion 26 because we can do better than this for those who put their lives on the line for our country, and this party will make sure they get the benefits, they get the rewards and they get the recognition in their pay packets and in their terms and conditions for doing just that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. So now we're going to vote on those motions. Motion number 18, all in favour, please show. All against. Motion number 18 is carried. Motion number 20, in the name of Dublin South West. No, sorry. Motion number 20, yes, in the name of Dublin South West Constituency Council. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion carried. Motion number 21, in the name of Tallaght Central Branch in Dublin South West. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion carried. Motion number 22, on the means testing of child benefit. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion lost. Motion number 23, in the name of James Connolly Branch in Waterford. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion carried. Motion 25, in the name of the Central Council. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion carried. And motion 26, in the name of the Central Council. All in favour, please show. All against. I declare the motion carried. And now we're going to deal with 6 motions on transport, tourism and sport.